I spoke a little bit about this already on Kyle and Corin, and but I'm going to do it again here. Some of you might already know what I'm about to say, but I feel compelled to do this as a standalone segment. Ellen DeGeneres got in some trouble on social media for palling around with George W. Bush, and she responded on her show and effectively doubled down.
But during the game, they showed a shot of George and me laughing together, and so people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. But a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again. And exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry, as a matter of fact. I have friends who should tweeze more. And I have... But just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Let me explain why this is beyond ridiculous. They always twist what people are saying here. So nobody said, how could you, Ellen? He's a conservative Republican. That wasn't the point people were making. People were saying, and by the way, they're factually correct about this, oh, he's a torture war criminal. That's the point people were making. Oh, okay, so you're going to hang out and normalize a torture war criminal. Somebody who should be in The Hague, somebody who should be behind bars for his crimes against humanity. You're going to normalize and launder the image of a person who, 5-6 years ago, everybody understood. Oh, whoa, yeah, that dude. There was he had like a 28% approval rating or thereabouts when he left office. You want to know why? Because he was one of the worst presidents that the U.S. ever had. Now, that's not, again, the worst president thing is not even the reason why it's not okay to hang out with him. Because if he was just the worst president, but he wasn't a war criminal, that would be fine. But he's not just the worst president. He's also a war criminal. So, I mean, this is why people are mad at you, is because there's this, smug indifference to the real-world harms caused by George W. Bush. And it's a smug indifference that's birthed in the fact that, well, you're a multimillionaire, he's a multimillionaire. You're famous, he's famous. Also, hey, we're in the Trump era, and everybody despises Trump in Hollywood. So it's like, well, now, oh, what? Don't you miss the days of George W. Bush? That's the reflexive anti-Trumpism that leads people to being totally amoral, vacuous losers. And so it's this perfect storm of, ignorance, immorality, and sanctimony for anybody who's willing to accurately say, hey, what's going on here? That's just totally insufferable. And I want to be clear about this. If Ellen was hanging out with somebody who she just disagreed with, if she was hanging out with a conservative Republican, my commentary would be the exact opposite of what it is today. My commentary would be like, I don't get why people are pissed off. Get over it. It's no big deal. That is literally just her hanging out with somebody that you all disagree with. So I mean that too. Even if she was hanging out with somebody who's loathsome, a bad person, like Tucker Carlson or something, and everybody's oh, look at this. I'd be like, but who gives a shit? No, seriously, who cares? Because we all have, and granted, they wouldn't be family, they would be friends, but we all have families, and in your family, there's somebody with incredibly draconian political beliefs. At least one. Probably more than one. But there's somebody somewhere down that line who's thinks Hannity is Albert Einstein. Thinks Hannity's Noam Chomsky. That's out there. So it's such basic stuff. It's kindergarten level, preschool level stuff to be hey man, you should try to get along with people you don't agree with. Oh, thank you. Oh, that was so profound. That was so brilliant. Like, oh, get along with people you don't agree with. See, I thought I walk up to people who don't agree with me on everything and immediately spit in their eye. That's what No, nobody thought that. Nobody thought that. Nobody thinks that. Nobody would do that. Everybody who she's giving this sanctimonious rant to, every single one of them gets along with people who don't agree with them. Literally every one of them. Nobody goes around their life like, I have a permanent stick up my butt, and I will make sure to talk to nobody who doesn't agree with me already on everything. Thank you very much. Imagine you meet people and you're immediately, what are your thoughts on abortion? Nobody does that. Nobody does that because we're not silly people. We're not silly people. We're not blockheads. So basically what she's doing is she's strawmanning all of her critics. The straw man is, oh, you guys are just not okay with hanging out with people you disagree with. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. Nobody said that at all. If you read the nature of if you cared enough to get off your high horse and read just a little bit of the nature of the criticism against you, if she took the time to really read like 4 tweets on it, she would be like, oh, they're all saying the same thing. Would you look at that? And I know because I saw. Every single tweet was like, well, no, he's a war criminal and he has the blood of hundreds of thousands of innocent people on his hands. He's a torturer. Like, this is the nature of every single criticism. Every single one. But she strawmans it and she spins it and she acts like, oh, I guess people just don't want to hang out with people who they disagree with. Well, what a convenient little escape for you, where you paint all of your critics as like petty, authoritarian, irrational people who are just high off their own purity. But that's none of them. None of them said that. In fact, I don't think if she really did hang out with just somebody who she disagrees with, it wouldn't be a story. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. But in the case of George W. Bush, it is a story, particularly because he's a war criminal. And now what are people doing? And I'm so happy they're doing this. They're taking this video of Ellen talking about, oh, me hanging out with George Bush, and you should get along with people who you disagree with. And they're putting behind her, on the screen behind her, they're editing in all of the pictures from the Iraq War. All of the torture, and there are a lot of pictures of the torture that went on, like at Abu Ghraib, for example. All the pictures of dead kids, terrorized families running away. Guys, you have to grapple with what actually happened in Iraq. And let's also make the case, because it's true, it wasn't just a mistake. Because that's the furthest left position you're allowed to take in elite circles. The furthest left position is what the Obama position was, which was, I think it was a strategic blunder, or another word that they like to use, a quagmire. Well, I'm here to tell you and burst that pretty little liberal bubble that a lot of people are living in. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a quagmire. It was an active decision. It was a choice that was made by people in power in the most powerful government that ever existed in human history, with the most powerful military that ever existed in human history. It was a choice with a government with agency to offensively attack a country that didn't attack us and kill civilians. That was a choice. Torture was a choice. It was a choice. We have agency. We meant to do it. It was, whoopsie, it was a mistake. No. It was on purpose. It was very much on purpose. So these are crimes. These are crimes. It wasn't a whoopsie. It wasn't a, oh, my bad. No. It was, we are actively going to choose to topple this government illegally, offensively. And oh, would you look at that? If all these civilians happen to die, what do I care? They're just Iraqis. Whatever. That's the mindset. So this is what people are objecting to, Ellen, is your thought process that like, well, he's one of our guys, meaning he's American, so he meant well, so that's good enough, right? And also, well, fuck Trump. So since fuck Trump, now I can go back and revitalize and launder the image of George W. Bush. And this is all like on a subconscious level. This is what's going on in her mind. It's just a disagreement. Whoa. I'm just disagreeing. What, you guys don't hang out with people you disagree with? I certainly don't hang out with war criminals. There were a lot of really funny tweets about this. One of them was like, about that picture of me being seen with Jared Fogle at the baseball game. Jared Fogle, known pedophile at the baseball game. You know, I was on Kyle and Core, and I was making the argument of, I was just hanging out with Mussolini. Whoa! Oh, I guess you don't want to hang out with people you disagree with. Like, you could fill in the blank with so many people who everybody would get it if you did it. You know, it's Charles Manson. What? You don't like hanging out with people you disagree with? So, when you look at, okay, serial killer, serial pedophile, whatever it might be, like, we're talking about This is what we're talking about. We're talking about war criminal, which is arguably even in a worse category. So that's why people are upset at it. And you all know, everybody here knows, change George W. Bush out with somebody else, and even Ellen would be like, yeah, I shouldn't be hanging out with him. So who? Let me give you an example. Harvey Weinstein. She's hanging out with Harvey Weinstein, and people are criticizing her. She wouldn't be caught hanging out with Harvey Weinstein in today's day, and she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. Because in the Hollywood circle she runs in, there's now the taboo, and no, can't do it. But George W. Bush, well, I mean, the war crimes were a long time ago. They were just Iraqis. He meant well. The torture, I mean, he was just trying to protect the country, right? You need a never-ending parade of apologetics and rationalizations to try to make it seem like it's just a disagreement. If it was just a disagreement, Ellen, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be talking about it if it was just a disagreement. I would be defending you if it was just a disagreement. I don't care how far right on the spectrum you go. If you're talking about somebody who just disagrees with people, that's fine. That's fine. And then the other layer that people put on, this is just the cherry on top, because again, to me, the biggest thing is the war criminal thing. But the cherry on top is that George W. Bush in his 2004 campaign ran on doing a constitutional amendment to make sure gays can never get married. So it is kind of like, a famous black person hanging out with George Wallace, the number one segregationist in the country who ran on segregation. That is kind of what this is like. But don't get me wrong, I don't think she knows that, and I don't think she would accept that, but it's irrelevant because this is what everybody sees because everybody's correct. Everybody's right in how they're viewing this. So no, Ellen, you're allowed to hang out with people you disagree with. We all hang out with people we disagree with. We all have family members. We all have friends. We live in the world. We live in the world, all right? We get it. We understand. There's almost half this country voted for Donald Trump. We all know people who voted for Trump. This is the way it works. We got it. But that sanctimonious pivot, that straw man that you created is not the critique against you. So maybe you should actually listen to what your critics are saying and take it to heart and adjust accordingly. Because I guarantee you, this does have negative effects. And the negative effects are whoever happens to watch Ellen, and she has a zillion fans. She has so many fans, it's insane. Her audience was cheering her commentary here. And what you've just done is you've humanized and you've laundered the image of a person who committed one of the worst atrocities in the modern era. And now that's just a disagreement. And what that does is that really devalues the lives that were taken by George W. Bush. That really devalues his actions and makes it seem like it's just a disagreement. You're for torture? I'm not. It's just a disagreement. You're for illegally and offensively invading a country that didn't attack us and killing hundreds of thousands of civilians? I'm not. It's just a disagreement. And you guessed it, fast forward 20 years from now, some celebrities will be embracing Trump. When we get the next Republican president, and they hate that next Republican president just as much, they'll revitalize Trump, assuming he's still alive, which is a long shot. But they will. They'll revitalize Trump, and they'll act like, what? Are you just mad because I'm hanging out with people that you disagree with? One of the great things about social media is that it has democratized national dialogue. And so you could argue, hey, sometimes that misfires. Sometimes we disagree with the outrage mob. But every now and then you find a diamond in the rough, man. And this viewpoint, which would have never been expressed previously, is now being expressed all over the place. And you have all of social media, all of new media, to be right there along with you to point out how she's being dishonest, disingenuous, she's pivoting, and she's strawmanning her opponents, and she's not actually listening to the criticism, which is a very substantive criticism.